I'm with Beth Sturdivant. She's a gold entrepreneur with Live the Source. And Beth, you're here today, and I wanted you to share your testimony about what you've experienced over the last few years. You've developed a condition called EMF, electromagnetic frequency poisoning. Is that correct? And if so, can you tell us a little bit about that, and what is EMF?
Okay, EMF is electromagnetic field sickness. There's two types. There's electromagnetic sickness and electromagnetic field sensitivity. I have the sickness. 4 years ago, I was almost on my deathbed. What happened was my house was too close to transmission power lines, and I did not know that working in the yard I was being attacked by the power lines. And long story short, I had mercury fillings in my mouth, and they acted as an antenna to the power lines. So what happened was I got brain damage, toxicity of the brain. My nervous system was damaged. My endocrine system was damaged. Severe edema, gained 60 pounds of fluid. And the freak thing about it was, like, in 2 seconds, I would just swell out. My chest would swell out, my arms would swell down, my stomach would swell out like I was 24 months pregnant. And it was really scary because nobody around me, including myself, I didn't know what was going on. And I went to the beach with a friend. She was like, Beth, let's just get away. You just come and let's just relax. And so she goes, are you bringing your laptop? And I said, yeah. I said, you know, that's how I relax. She says, you're not going to work, are you? I said, no, I'm going to relax. I'm going to look up Ancestry. So what I did is I went, and when I went to get the computer, I said, you know what, this computer, I always feel sick when I'm on it. And I had just been to the doctor, OBGYN, because I had all these pregnancy symptoms. And it was like it clicked because I had a cyst on my ovary, and I was just getting through my second time of being checked. And my next appointment was to go to the Blumenthal, the cancer, center in downtown Charlotte. And so when I was on the computer, I got sick. Now, I didn't have the computer next to me. I had it on the table. And then all of a sudden, my stomach tightens up and it starts swelling. And we looked at each other like, this is freaky. So put the laptop up. So about 30 minutes, maybe 40 minutes later, I started feeling okay again. And I said, well, we're going to have to try this again. So she went back to get the laptop, and within a few minutes, I was swelling up. So I have not touched that computer since. And what she did, she went home and she Googled swelling from a laptop. And it went on to say the heat from a laptop's radiation, and these are the symptoms, da-de-da. But it went on to say if you live near transmission power lines, these are the symptoms, and I had every one of them plus. So shortly after that, the power company had bought our house, and then I got really, really sick to the point of death. And so I've been on the research.
Now, wait a minute, Beth. When you say you got really, really sick to the point of death, go into depth. What do you mean by to the point of death?
Well, what would happen, I was sitting at my parents' house, and was like, it's weird, my brain was shutting down.
What do you mean by your brain was shutting down?
I couldn't function at all. I didn't have any control over movement. I couldn't talk. I couldn't read. I couldn't pronounce words. I mean, my body was shutting down. And all I could do was sit in a room and just stay away from the kitchen. I mean, my mom and dad had to cut off everything in that house. Everybody had to walk around in the dark. I had to wear sunglasses at night. I couldn't deal with any lighting. I couldn't deal with the sun. Everything was making me swell up, and it was scary because I didn't know what was happening. I know that I live near power lines, but I didn't know the in-depth that I know today. And my chest was just like, it was just going to explode, and I literally thought my heart was just going to blow out of my chest. It was just difficult. And it was difficult for me because I'm a go-getter, and I've owned many businesses. And for me to just have to sit, and literally I would sit on the bed for 8 hours and it would seem like 30 minutes to me.
And Beth, you're a young woman. I mean, what age were you when this started?
I was 37. I was 37 at this point, but it started in 2006 when they put the second set of power lines, so I was 35. So now I'm 41. It's been 6 years. And you know, the biggest thing that I've learned from this is that many people suffer from electromagnetic sensitivity. They have anxiety, they have stress, depression, fibromyalgia. I mean, just all these different symptoms, and a lot of it's common because a lot of people have blood-brain barrier compromise, and they don't know what it means. And so they're being attacked by all these invisible ways that nobody can see, but I can feel.
Mm-hmm. And do you think you had a compromised blood-brain barrier?
Oh, absolutely. The power lines did it. Also, them spraying chemicals under the power lines when I was out there working in the yard. That's probably what really got the ball rolling. The drift of that, I didn't think anything about it. I was just like, oh, cool, that's a weird-looking machine. I didn't know that it was like the chemicals were sending a drift and I'm out there sweating. So that was probably the start of it.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, that causes cognitive issues. And I started doing research when I could get my phone, and I had diodes put on my phone, and little by little I would research or have something printed so I could read it, so I just wasn't laying there. But I couldn't even flip papers. I would get sick just turning papers. I would get sick just moving. It would make me retch.
How many years, though, before you got to the condition to where you felt like you were dying?
You mean what?
When did it actually start, and how many years progressed before you realized what had happened?
Well, it really started in 2006, severe, that I noticed anything. And then in 2008, my back went out really bad. 2009 is when my brain was totally shutting down. And it was the end of 2010 when I was able to go to a bio-detox in Charleston that I started having a hair of a relief, not much. But it wasn't until May of 2011 when I got to Dr. Corrine Allen, the Aldi Brain Camp, that really, that was what changed my life.
Now, how many doctors did you see or did you seek to help you figure out what was going on?
Well, I have been to 17 doctors before I got to Dr. Allen. And I just want to say, I started off with the MD, the OBGYN, you know, all those levels of doctors. They didn't have a clue. They just looked at me like I was a nut. I got the reports, what they wrote in there. They were not hearing me when I said I am swelling up 10 pounds every couple weeks. They didn't know me before. I understand that. But it's a little irritating when you don't listen to a patient. And I had the door shut on me many, many times, you know, with these doctors not understanding what's going on. So, you know, my mission is to educate, make awareness, and to really reach out to parents that have children that have compromised blood-brain barriers.
Now, in talking about the children, I heard you share one time about when you were at Dr. Corrine Allen's brain camp out in Idaho. You said that you recognized that the children who had autism were retching and having the symptoms that you were having. What did that cause you to realize?
Well, when I was laying in the bed one night, I was looking at TV, which was really far from me, and I saw these kids that were autistic, and they were doing a show, and they were going to play for their parents. And a little boy, he said, every time I'm around these lights, it hurts my head. And the teacher was like, oh, you're okay. And the mom was like, oh, you're okay. And from that day forward, I was laying in the bed with the same problem. And all I could do was cry for the kid, because nobody understands that. So that's when I realized that my mission is to get better and help others.
Now, since you brought that to Dr. Corrine's attention, what did she do? Did she actually try to ground the kids to see if it made a difference? Because you wear a device that you actually developed, to my understanding, and I'd never seen one before, but when you walked in, it looked like something that would come out of somebody who'd committed a crime and had to go home and wear it around their ankle.
Yeah, well, it's a homemade device. And yes, when I went to Dr. Allen's, we were able to she was able to see through my self-grounding, and, you know, obviously I studied grounding, and Dr. Ray told me about grounding. And you think my gadget's crazy. I mean, I haven't shown you all the gadget that Dr. Ray had. It is off the chain. But anyways, so what we realized was, well, one, I couldn't have sat in front of the light therapy at Dr. Allen's without being grounded because I couldn't deal with the electricity. So she saw that because my body wasn't having to fight and digest electricity, and I was being grounded, that I was getting more treatment. It was working even better. And so she started using that with the autism kids and noticed that that started calming them down, because that's what I told her. I was able to explain to her what it feels like in the nervous system and what's going on in the brain when you're exposed to these different things, and nobody knows this.
And can you kind of share with us, what does it feel like when you say you can't stand to be there under the light?
Well, what happens is you start getting this feeling right away in my nervous system. And it, you know, it starts off slow, and then all of a sudden it is just intense. It's like somebody sticking me with 1,000 needles. And then I feel nausea. My stomach, you know, tightens up. And depending on whatever, I have different places, and it'll make my head hurt. Like, you know, a severe headache, or like somebody's coming and just pressurizing my head or pushing it together or something. Noise can affect me. Vibrations can affect me by making me retch. I haven't been retching that much, but I have retched a little bit. For instance, I was sitting at my house the other day, and the utility company came by, and they were burying some telephone wires, and the machine they were using vibrated, and it was noisy, and it made me retch. I mean, I was minding my business in the house, and I was outside. So it just like, every day I feel like I'm better. I am getting better, but I mean, I have an electrical problem. I'm very sensitive to all different things, and probably microwaves would probably be the worst thing you can turn on around.
So, but this comes back to you living in this home that was close to power lines.
Yeah, what it did was, what happens is, it causes oxidative stress on the cells. And when your cells have had enough, what happened was my body started producing histamines. The histamines were too many. It broke my cellular structure, the wall, and it caused my blood vessels to leak. Then it clogged my lymphatic system. It caused all that radiation, killed so many cells in my body that I have an overload of dead cells. I mean, that's what it is. And until, you know, the cells died premature, they didn't go through the proper process of, you know, how, you know, some cells live a certain amount of time, some cells live another certain amount of time. They didn't have that process. And what they have to have is, I can't remember the word, but anyways, it changes the structure so they can be eliminated through the blood or through the waste or through, you know, fecal or whatever. And that's not happening. They're stuck in my body. So until this can happen, which is a process, this is where the fluid's coming from.